Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. The Iowa Hawkeyes defeated the Michigan State Spartans at home 20-17 on a last-second field goal. This obviously, just right off the bat, guys, was not Iowa's best performance. Michigan State is not a good team. They probably have some talent, as much of the formerly East teams within the Big Ten usually do. I would say the East probably top to bottom recruits historically a little bit better than Western Division Big Ten teams, but it does certainly ebb and flow. I mean, Iowa has had top 30, top 25 recruiting classes. I think 2020, the Xavier Wanpa recruiting class was a top 25 recruiting class. Wisconsin has had top 25 recruiting classes. Minnesota, is usually somewhere in the 50s, sometimes below the 40s. Illinois has improved their recruiting in recent years, and obviously there's a ton of talent in the state of Illinois. But nonetheless, I'm sure there is some talent on the roster for Michigan State. But still, I mean, they came into this game with 0 Big Ten wins. They were, I believe, 0-7 coming into this, which is pretty wild. Pretty wild. Things just have gone absolutely downhill since Mark D'Antonio left. And it just goes to show you, and this is why when I made my day after video discussing Kirk Ferentz in Iowa, this is why I have a very nuanced and balanced take when it comes to the topic of whether Kirk Ferentz needs to go or should go, because I also recognize that it's not as easy as a lot of people think it is to find a new head coach. If you miss on just one head coach, it can take upwards of 10 years until you pull yourself out of the depths of obscurity. I mean, that's just the truth of it, because most head coaches are given at least 2 to 3 years, sometimes more. And it can take a long time before you hit on a decent coach. So now, obviously, good administrations are good for a reason, and they end up finding and recruiting solid coaches and have a knack for it. But still, I don't think that this is something that should be just kind of nonchalantly, let's go and find a new coach. Kirk Ferentz needs to go, the all-time winningest coach in Big Ten history as a Big Ten coach. No, much more thought needs to go into it than that. There's only a handful of decent coaches that are again, solid to decent around the country that are available. So now, with that being said, just bringing this back to the game, Michigan State 0-8 now. They were 0-7 coming into this game, 3-7 overall. Again, they're just not a good football team. Iowa their offense did nothing for 3 quarters. If I'm going to give a brief synopsis and summary of this game, their offense did nothing for 3 quarters. They did wake up in the fourth quarter. A lot of their production came in the fourth quarter, especially in the passing game. But man, I mean, it was tough sledding. They were able to run the football as per usual, but the pass game, there just was nothing there. Mark Gronowski was getting taken down. He threw the interception. I mean, that was just it was a flat out terrible interception. And Gronowski has had quite a few just awful interceptions this year where you're like, why would he throw that? I mean, it's literally there was 2 Michigan State defenders over there. Not 1, 2. And he threw it 2 to 3 yards off of the Iowa wide receiver. So that's one of those where maybe there's miscommunication in the route tree or, the play call. And, the receiver did not make the break that they were supposed to break. I mean, there's any number of issues, but just, wow, it just, I couldn't believe it. And then Iowa woke up. This is in the fourth quarter. This is a classic Iowa game where their defense keeps them in it, and their offense does just enough to win the game, plus a little help from special teams. And that's exactly what happened in this game. I mean, how many games have we had in the last 5 years where that's the case? I mean, it happens all the time, where it is maybe a special teams score or excellent field position from special teams. The kicking game is pretty solid, although Drew Stevens did miss one from a straightaway 53 yards. He had the leg strength, just hooked it. Maybe the wind got it a little bit. It is a tough kick. The Iowa coaching staff has all the confidence in him in the world. I mean, he is a good kicker. Like, I've never said that Drew Stevens is not a good kicker. His problem in recent years has been accuracy. He has not been able to be as accurate as he was in his freshman year. He's never been able to reclaim that. He hasn't dropped precipitously, but just the accuracy is not there to the same levels. I mean, I think his freshman year he was 90%, and it wasn't like he was only hitting chip shots. But now I would say the last 2 years Iowa has been more advantageous in the types of kicks that he kicks from 40, 50 yards because of his leg strength. But still. But yeah, that was the game, guys. I mean, that is literally the summary of the game. We did have a nice interception from Zach Lutmer. Iowa's defense played strong. Deshaun Lee got hit, just burned. I not sure what happened there. It was a great route, great play call by Michigan State. It was kind of a rub route. And I think Deshaun Lee was kind of expecting the wide receiver to go a little bit wider. He comes across and then just turns upfield, and by then it was 2-3 steps too late. Michigan State quarterback put it on a rope, and it was a touchdown. If I were to give each team or each side of the football a grade today, I'd probably give the defense an A, maybe a B+. It wasn't their best game of the year, but it definitely wasn't their worst game of the year. If we look at it, Iowa led 7-0 after the first, 7-3 at halftime, and then Michigan State scored 14 again. Almost a mirror image of the USC game, where in the second half, the opposing team just comes out and punches Iowa in the mouth. And then Iowa finished on a 13-0 run to win 20-17, like I said, with the last second Drew Stevens field goal kick to get the come from behind victory. Iowa came into this game as a 17.5 point favorite, just to give you guys a perspective of this game. But as I told you guys in my preview, I said I would not be surprised if Iowa came into this game and struggled a little bit, given the 2 heartbreaking losses in a row that they have suffered. And I told you guys, I would not be surprised if Iowa played down to the level of their competition. And I was right. I was half right. It wasn't my prediction, but I did say that it was certainly something that would not be surprising if it did happen. The offense, I'd give them a C, a flat-out C, I'd probably say, because the run game was okay. The pass game was awful for much of the game, minus the fourth quarter, which I will return to. Alessio Milivojevic, 25 of 42, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. And then special teams, I'd probably give them a B+. Drew Stevens did have the missed kick, but he did make a last-second pretty difficult kick. It wasn't like a no-brainer last-second field goal kick. And I do believe he hit another big field goal kick. I think he hit a nut, like it was either from 40 or 50. Let's see. He was 2 of 3. So yeah, he hit a chip shot. Yeah, the long was 44, and then he hit a chip shot in that fourth quarter as well. And then obviously you had the Caden Weechen touchdown. Again, I will say this time and time again. If you watch how electric Caden Weechen is in the return game, and he is explosive. He's even more explosive than Ihmir Smith-Marsette. But I will say Ihmir Smith-Marsette was a beautiful runner, very natural runner's gait. You could tell he was a track guy. But Caden Weechen, how explosive he is through the holes is just crazy. And it makes sense. Like, if you look at how he's built physically, his lower half is very muscular. And he just burns through the holes and is very quick in that first step. It just makes no sense to me how he is not more impactful in the passing game. Like, how can you not get a guy like that to be more impactful in the passing game? It just makes no sense. I understand running routes is different than being a punt returner, but still, like, you mean to tell me that you can't find ways to get him plays in the open field and, like screen passes, quick slants or, quick hitters or, I don't understand it. You literally have one of the most explosive, gifted athletes in the entire country on your roster, and you can't find a way to get some production there. I mean, hell, why not just send him deep? Have him run easy, boop, boop, quick in-out routes where he's just going deep. And, to me, that is a must, that you have to try and be more creative in getting a guy like that open, because I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say that Iowa doesn't have athletes. They don't have athletes. It's like, really? They don't have athletes, huh? What about Ihmir Smith-Marsette? What about Brandon Smith? What about I even think, was it Riley McCarron or was it Nick Easley? It might have been Nick Easley. They also won, I believe, the Big Ten Returner of the Year. Iowa knows athleticism. They develop it in the weight room. Caden Weechen is one of the most explosive athletes in the Big Ten. I'm tired of hearing that Iowa doesn't have athletes. It's just not true. It's just not true. Now, collectively, do they have the speed of like an Ohio State or, maybe not. But we always hear from the coaching staff, especially from Tim Lester in the new development of the offense. Like, they're always saying, we need more speed. We need more speed. Well, you do have speed. And you have speed and you're doing nothing with it offensively. Like, what are you doing with the speed that you do have? So, Ethan Herkett got a sack. Carson Shire got a sack. Like I said, Zach Lutmer got the INT. Reese Vanderzee, 2 receptions for 46 yards. Sam Phillips, 1 for 33. DJ Vaname, 3 for 31. Good to see him get involved. He's going to be a big playmaker next year. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Iowa's tight end room with Addison Ostrenga, DJ Vaname, and Zach Ortworth. I believe that Zach Ortworth is going to be the one that takes a step back, because he doesn't bring anything so new or so different or so much better than those two guys to warrant not having them on the field. Iowa's going to have one of the better tight end rooms if all 3 of them return next year, but I'm concerned that we'll see. I mean, Tim Lester has started to use the tight ends more as time has gone on, but I am concerned that he's not going to use them enough even still. But it's good to see some production from them. Addison Ostrenga is more of a blocking tight end at this time. than a receiving threat, but still, I mean, there's going to be a ton of versatility, a ton of playing experience in that position group. I'm still a big believer in the tight end position group. I continue to believe that it's a position group that Iowa can utilize as a, kind of winning in the margins type position, where it's like, okay, well, maybe year in, year out, we won't be able to get the same athletes at the wide receiver position as Ohio State. We'll be able to get, decent guys, but where we can really take advantage and have some studs is at the tight end position, where we recruit really well. It's the one position where we actually can get high 3-star and 4-star guys consistently, which more on that later, as Iowa landed highly sought after reclassified tight end Luke Brewer from Norwalk, Iowa. And we saw from the year with Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson that you can get a ton of production from those two positions. Can you imagine now having an offense that has not only one tight end, but two tight ends having over 500 yards receiving? Iowa's receivers don't even have that, which I think is fine. That makes my point even more. You can utilize your tight ends and get them to be your big playmaking ability to some degree targets. In that year, in 2018, TJ Hawkinson had 760 receiving yards, and Noah Fant had 519 receiving yards. On top of that, Brandon Smith had 361, and Amir Smith-Marset had 361 receiving yards. Can you imagine Iowa being able to do that again? Nate Stanley had 2,852 yards, 26 touchdowns to 10 INTs. I mean, and Iowa finished 9-4 that year. I just cannot even imagine Iowa doing that this year. I really cannot. So I did want to give you guys an interesting stat. I'm first going to finish reviewing the team stats. Just to finish this out, Gronowski had, let's see here, 57 yards on the ground, 5.2 average. He was 12 of 22, 147 yards. Again, hasn't been able to eclipse the 200-yard mark. 1 touchdown, 1 INT, although he did go over the 20 pass mark. I've been telling you guys all year that kind of the sweet spot is 15 to 20 passes, albeit they only went over by 2 passes, but still. And that was actually somewhat surprising. Kamari Moulton, 18 carries for 78 yards. Not the best day. He did only average 4.3 yards a pop, but still not the worst. He almost did fumble the ball early in the game. Thank goodness that didn't happen. Not sure what he was thinking there, letting loose of the ball like that towards the end. Jazzy Patterson, 6 for 24, averaging 4 yards a pop. Much of Iowa's, run game, really not super explosive today, not super impactful in the explosive type of way, but good enough, not nothing. You would want them to be maybe a little bit stronger, but it was good enough to get the job done. You would kind of hope to be able to get, at least 4.5 yards per carry, but still. Total yards 301 to 335 in favor of Michigan State. Pass yards 255 to 147. Rush yards 154 to 80 in favor of Iowa. Yards per play 4.9 to 4.9. First downs 18 to 16 in favor of Michigan State. Third down efficiency, Iowa was 1 of 10. 10% on third down. Michigan State was 4 of 15. Again, that's against this Michigan State defense. Iowa was 1 of 10. It's just, I mean, at this point, what more can we even say, guys? Fourth down efficiency, 0 of 1, both teams. Iowa ran 61 plays, Michigan State 69. Sacks allowed, Iowa gave up 3. Michigan State gave up 2. Punts, Michigan State 9 to Iowa 6. Penalty, Iowa had 4 for 40. Michigan State 1 for 10. Fumbles lost, Iowa fumbled the ball 1 time. I don't know that I saw that play, actually. So if you guys see it in the comment section, me saying this, can you guys remind me of that fumble? Was it a Gronowski fumble? I think it might have been a Gronowski fumble. Interception, we talked about the Gronowski interception, and then time of possession 31-28. So here is an interesting stat for you guys that I did the math. I was right, it was Gronowski. Gronowski rushed middle for 8-yard gain to the Iowa 38, fumbled by Gronowski at Iowa 30, forced by Q Dunningham, recovered by Michigan State Jay Hall. So here's some interesting stats for you guys to compare Iowa's offense, and give the average for it to this year, last year's to this year. So Iowa has 1,336 passing yards combined. Gronowski, Hank Brown, everybody. They have 8 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. The average yards per game for Iowa this year is 121.45 yards per game. In this day and age, guys, that's terrible. You need to, at minimum, be at 150 on average. In 2024, Iowa had 1,711 for the entire season, so that was 13 games. We've only played 11 games up until this point this year. They averaged 131.62 yards per game. So what I did is I just averaged them out by the current total number of games that each team has played, which means that 2024, they averaged 10 more yards per game passing than this year. With a new quarterback, paid for quarterback, which I understand is going to have to be done regardless, but as bad as Cade McNamara was, as bad as the Iowa passing game was last year, it's actually worse this year. And that's not to mention the fact that Iowa is a year older in the receiving core. They added Sam Phillips. I know Addison Ostrango went out, but all these guys are a year older. Jacob Gill came back. Who knows what's happened to Seth Anderson, but and then rushing the football, Iowa currently has 1,766 yards running the football, which is not bad. Okay, it's still a really good number. And they're averaging 160.55 yards per game running the football. And that includes having Gronowski. In 2024, albeit obviously they had a historic season with Caleb Johnson, they had 2,564 yards. They averaged 197.23 yards running per game. So the Iowa offense this year is worse. Average, they are worse. Per game in the totals, running the football, passing the football, they're worse. Now, the rushing total is understandable. Like, obviously, you should try and hit the previous mark of the previous year and what have you, or get close to it or exceed it. You should set goals for yourself. But still, good numbers are good numbers. I think if a team can rush for at least 2,000 yards in a season, that's not too bad. Obviously having a little bit more is good, but 2,000 is a decent benchmark. But to not even average more than what you averaged last year passing the football, and obviously that can change as we still have 2 games left to go, it is just, it's crazy, guys. It is crazy to me that it has not improved. So I'm a little bit worried about Iowa's ability to improve, Tim Lester's ability to improve this passing offense. But as I said, I'm willing to give him one more year to kind of see what he does. But that's really all I'm willing to give him. So just wanted to give you guys that interesting stat. And the touchdown to INT total is not much better either. So this year it's 8-6, and in 2024 it was 10-8. So it's about the same roughly. So, but anyways, guys, Iowa does pick up the victory. I'm sorry that I'm not more positive, guys. I'm happy that they got the victory. It would have been absolutely brutal had they not. But still, guys, I mean, there's still a lot of things that need to be improved upon. And, just kind of looking forward, these things need to be fixed. I mean, there's no getting around it. So I hope they can. I think the biggest hope is that the wide receivers continue to develop. I did like what I saw in that fourth quarter with some back shoulder throws. And Gronowski kind of just letting it rip a little bit rather than being so in his head and so frantic and frazzled back there. But nonetheless, all right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. It has been the postgame show. Iowa defeats Michigan State 20-17 to improve to 7-4 overall. And let's see, they're 6th in the Big Ten. Wonder how Cade McNamara is doing these days. And 5-3 in the Big Ten. They sit 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th in the Big Ten. One game ahead of Washington. Then, of course, they have a big game coming up 11-28 at Nebraska. It's going to be a very, very, very tough game for Iowa to win. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. And facts are feelings because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.